Dude, I'm drinking this Red Bull that's like a day old. I just had it sitting there. Hopefully, there's like no bugs in it. But I think a bug might be in my throat. A bug
Hello
might.
and welcome to Nothing.
A bug might be stuck in my throat. All right, the Smiling Friends conspiracy theory. Shout out Bernie Vids.
Today, I'm going to talk about Smiling Friends. So Smiling Friends was canceled not even a week ago. Now, there has been a lot of theories about if this was the real reason that they canceled it, if it's a prank. I don't think it's a prank personally, but I can understand why people would think that. There's rumors about it.
I feel like Smiling Friends was very successful. I think it was a very successful show, or maybe it wasn't, right? But I thought it was very successful. If it's okay, you guys can prove me wrong if it wasn't, but I thought the general consensus was that like a lot of people liked it, and it had like a pretty like maybe not cult fan base. I don't even know what makes something have like a cult fan base or whatever, but I thought the fan base was like really strong for it, and I could see it easily be something like Family Guy or like The Simpsons. I could see that. I could see Smiling Friends running forever. So it's actually, I'm really sad that, they announced they got discontinued. In honor, I think we should all watch I don't even know what season it was on, but I think I'm gonna do a little watch reaction thing, and I'll upload that somewhere. I don't know, maybe a Patreon, because I can't upload it on YouTube. I'm not gonna be able to upload it on YouTube. I can't watch it on stream, so I might have to drop a Patreon for that. Also, that was the original plan Oh my God, my hair! That was the original plan for Patreon, but yeah, I don't know. I just stopped with the Patreon. I forgot about it. I have like so much like shit to do, but I just end up forgetting. Yeah.
Being related to the Paramount merger where they're buying Warner Brothers. There's a lot of compelling different theories because it just feels very out of left field for them to cancel it. Personally, I actually could fully believe that what they're saying is the main motivation. Maybe they just ran out of steam. They didn't want to keep going with the show. They weren't fully passionate.
Dude, there's no way. There's actually no way they just lost motivation. Dude, this show, I feel like, is the like essence of comedy and like creative freedom. Bro, have you seen this show? Have you seen the show? There's no way they're not having fun making this. It just seems like such a fun show to do. I guess like you can get tired of like doing your job, but dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. They only did this shit for 3 seasons, which, not knocking them down, it probably is hella work, but man, I hope that's not the case.
But today I'm going to talk about some interesting information that I was sent by a friend, and it kind of relates to how the show was produced and the changes between seasons in that process. So this is Smiling Friends, a reason to doubt the official story, asterisk, this video is based on speculation and should not be treated as conclusive. There's my disclaimer. So. Okay. Let's get into this. On February 25th, 2026, they made the announcement video, yada, yada, yada. You know what it's about. If you're here, most likely, I'll play some clips. If you don't.
Michael and I are here to announce that Smiling Friends will be ending after season 3 is done. We got to a point where we just felt like that's a good spot to end it. We wouldn't want to be doing more seasons with like half-hearted, or burnt out, or not feeling it.
Dude, there's no way. I actually don't think I don't think so. They're probably gonna go on hiatus. I don't think they're ending it just like that.
And that's not fair to us, and it's not fair to the audience to give you guys fucking slop. That sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that really threw people off is that it wasn't that long ago that they were talking about continuing until season 5. Back in June of 2025, the show was actually confirmed for 2 more seasons, while season 3 was on the way. But they basically said that a lot of animated shows, they tend to go on forever. Obviously, The Simpsons, Family Guy, even South Park. These shows they keep on going and going.
I mean, you don't have to go for that long like The Simpsons or like Family Guy. But three seasons, and how many episodes are in the season of Smiling Friends? Isn't it like 8? That's personally, maybe I'm being too selfish. Personally, I don't think that's enough. But that's personally, I can't get in the mind of the artist, you know.
Zach Cato and Mike Cusack were very vocal about how they didn't want to do that, which is completely fair. And it's not like this attitude came out of nowhere. Michael Cusack and I decided very early on we didn't want the show to overstay its welcome or get stale, and we intend to stick by that. So this was all the way back in June of 2025, and they also have spoken at length in interviews. We'll see how we feel after 4 and 5. And then
also, you know what would be cool? Which I think not a lot of authors, directors, I don't know, a lot of people who make shows or cartoons don't do, or I guess Adventure Time tried doing it, but same style, maybe change it up a little bit, obviously, because I feel like each show should have like the thing that makes them, but it would be cool seeing them venture and do like different cartoons, you know. I feel like that would be fun. See, I would be let me sit down. I would be happy with that. I think that's a good idea.
Zach,
because then you get even more creative freedom, right? Maybe they're tired of the characters. Maybe they're tired of the same jokes, right? Because you can only repeat the same jokes. Like each person, even when it comes to people, you can only get so much of that person before you know like everything about them, you know, before it becomes like predictable. So maybe they're trying like to avoid that. Maybe they're gonna start a new show, maybe new main characters, new jokes, new everything, right? You can just rewrite a whole different like story.
And I will get into the war room and decide what the next plan is. We pretty much can guarantee it's not going to go on as much as these other shows. Even if we had 1,000 ideas at the end of season 5, we're not going to go on long. We're not going to put a number up, but 5 is getting close to probably where we'll want to wrap it up. Is Adult Swim arm twisting you to keep it going? Even our agents think we're going to go to season 80. Our reps in Adult Swim are like, surely we'll go on forever. But Zach and I know what's best for the show. Leaving the audience wanting more is the best. Some important context as well is that between season 2 and 3, they launched a new animation studio based in LA called ZAM Studio. So where this all kind of started for why I was digging into this is because of a thread on the subreddit, which, look, I don't read this subreddit, but a friend did, and I'm really glad that they did. These are actually very good observations, and I'm going to give full credit to this individual, Intelligent Ad 2339, for noticing that on the ZAM Studio's website, the Smiling Friends characters have now been removed. So if you actually go to the ZAM Studios website, it's actually different from how it appeared just a few months ago. You can see that the entire website has been scrubbed of any explicit Smiling Friends references. The Gwimbly arcade machine is changed to just a ZAM arcade. Charlie has been removed from the octopus, and Mr. Boss is just removed. He's just missing. Also, Alan. I forgot about Alan. This is pretty interesting because it kind of implies that they don't own the rights to the characters, which again is not surprising. When Zach and Oni were pitching Hellbenders,
that's smart. See, I kind of. Well, I didn't mean to do that. See, if they're doing what I think though, so look, I think this is a very smart method. This is a very smart method. When you're in the entertainment business, right? And you're starting off, you're an indie, whatever, right? You're an indie artist, indie, whatever, right? You don't have money. You don't have the connections. You don't have anything. Right? So what do? You sign to a label. You go to whatever company, right? And you get the backing. And then they put your show in front of all these faces, right? They just green light it, boom. They promote it, everything. You get like all the backing, you get all the stuff in the back end, right? And then you blow up. You make sure to only sign for a certain amount, a time, or for that show or whatever. You make sure you can get out whenever you want. And then you start your own shit. You already got some money. You already got the eyes. You are the product. Might as well start your own. This smart. See, I like this idea. I like it. I like it. I like it. If that's the way they're going. Because these guys, they were animators way before that. And they were dropping stuff on Newsgrounds, I think. They were dropping like cartoons and stuff. Like I remember when Smiling Friends first came out and I was like obsessed with it. I started looking at the guys' stuff on like YouTube and their old animations. And they've been doing this shit for a very long time. They don't like they probably didn't have enough money to run like a whole show like by themselves, but now they probably do. And I'm glad if that's the idea, I fully support them, and I'll watch the show.
Was mentioned there that when you sign on for a show like this, you end up signing over the rights to the characters as a whole. So that would make sense. Yeah. From what I can tell, the last known archive with the Smiling Friends characters on the website is from October of 2025. I did see a comment claiming that the change actually occurred in early December, which I think is interesting because however soon this change happened kind of indicates possibly something happening behind the scenes. If we're to assume that it got changed after the show, that makes a little more sense. But if it actually did change beforehand in early December, that could actually indicate that there was something going on for a while, that maybe some kind of friction was in the process of happening for at least 2 months. I did actually find the post, and it is in fact dated December 2025 and shows that the change happened 2 months before the show was canceled. I don't think anyone's actually archived the site in its current state, but this had to have happened at least after October of 2025. And even though there's no archive, the Tumblr post indicates that the change happened sometime around December. Now, another person that definitely deserves a lot of credit for this is Taipei J. This person is basically the main proponent of this theory that I've seen. They point out that ZAM does work on the show, but they were mainly responsible for specialty animation. The new season features a mix of claymation, high-end 2D animation, CG animation, stop motion, and live-action elements. Now, to correct some information in Jay's post, ZAM Studios was not responsible for the Dragon Ball Z bumper or the Smiling Symphonies bumper. We'll talk about that later on, but Taipei J points out that this paragraph doesn't say that they
That looks sick. I actually can't wait to watch that.
Did the main 2D animation for the show. It seems they had a pretty limited role, which isn't to downplay their contributions. It's just that I think it would be easy to assume that ZAM Studios, they made a studio, they're making the studio to produce Smiling Friends, but that's not the case. So this interview from November of 2025, Michael says, "Yes, that's our specialty studio that does special animation stuff. It's all my friends, and we're happy to have a little hub that we can do fun, creative, and weird stuff. But a lot of the work on Smiling Friends is done all over the world. William Street, Adult Swim's animation studio in Atlanta, is the main hub for the show. We still have people that work from Australia too. Smiling Friends is a project that happens all over the world remotely." So then, Taipei J actually links to another user who, again, got a credit to all these people, GloomyMess9822, who talks about a production shift in Season 3. This user noticed that Season 3 episode director credits are all Koreans. Before Season 3, it was mostly animated by Studio Yada and Melbourne, US-based Princess Bento Pictures. After Season 2, Zach and Michael moved to LA to open their own animation studio, and the bulk of the animation for Season 3 was moved to William Street, which is Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers' in-house studio, with assistance from the overseas studio, Say-Rom Animation. Now, I wanted to verify the information in this post. There's this article from June 11th, 2025 by Animation Magazine that does confirm that seasons 4 and 5 were currently in production at William Street. And the reason why this is a pretty significant shift is because, as Michael says in this interview from 2022, they had a very good relationship with Princess Bento. If you're not sure what that company is, Princess Bento is a subsidiary of Princess Pictures as well as Bento Box Entertainment. It's kind of a joint venture. Princess Pictures is based in Australia, Bento Box is based in North Hollywood, and Princess Bento would be responsible for Michael Cusack's other shows, YOLO Crystal Fantasy and Koala Man. So obviously, they go back further than just Smiling Friends, and they were a pretty important part of the production process. This wasn't just any other studio Michael Cusack had a previous history working with this specific company. Studio Yada is pretty well known as this animation studio that was formed by a lot of online independent animators, and they animated a lot of these episodes. Desmond's Big Day Out, the pilot, Smiling Friends Go to Brazil, Gwimbly, Mr. President, A. Allen Adventure, The Boss Finds Love, Brothers Egg, Charlie, Pim, and Bill versus the Alien, The Magical Red Jewel. Now you can see here that Sayram actually was there from the earlier seasons. They did provide additional animation, but the bulk of the animation was being handled by Studio Yada and Princess Bento, as you can see here on Wikipedia. And starting with the release of season 3 in 2025, production was fully moved to William Street in-house, with additional animation services being handled by Sayram Animation in South Korea and Dynamita Animation in Colombia. So Dynamita Animation, they also provided a ton of specialty animation. They seem to have done Squim and the aforementioned Smile Symphonies bumper. Let's get into the more specifics. So season 1, as you can see here, is the only season not to have any episode director credit. However, there are different animation directors per episode. These names include people like Paul Trevord, which pretty well known, pretty notable online animator. I'm not familiar with all these names. Like, you look into each one of these people, they're all internet people or people that they know or people in the Western animation industry. That's pretty consistent. Now, Sayram Animation is an animation studio located in South Korea, founded in 1987. While it mainly animates shows from American animation studios, the company started making its own cartoons in 2003. This is something I do want to stress. I don't think it's right to blame the Korean animation studio for anything. It kind of ties into a larger current within the Western animation industry, which is that a lot of the production pipeline is being outsourced overseas where you can get cheaper labor. Again, I don't think it's right to focus or fixate on any of these specific people. And at the end of the day, if they're doing good work, they're doing good work. But it is an important dynamic because Smiling Friends was originally this very unique production. Now it's kind of becoming more standardized. It's being animated in-house at William Street, and the main animation studio is an overseas Korean studio. Let's see, at season 3, all episodes in this season are directed by David Hutzel under an episode director credit. And as you can see here, these episodes are being storyboarded by Hannah Deigel, Paul Trevord, but these episodes are all being directed by Koreans. And again, it's not a problem with these specific people. I'm sure they do a great job. I mean, the show, season 3 wasn't bad, but it is an important, significant shift, something visible within the credits that it is fundamentally changing. This is just the IMDb of one of those names. You can see that they were previously an animator at Rough Draft Korea. They were an overseas animator.
Oh, they did the Max though? Hey, the Max. I remember there was a time where I was obsessed with watching the Max on TikTok. I haven't watched the series. I should probably watch the series.
Director on Cow and Chicken, I Am Weasel, Brickleberry. This is where we kind of get into a little more of a historical context for the relationship between the Western animation industry and South Korean, like overseas animation studios. We're gonna go through some quotes from John Kricfalusi, the creator of Ren and Stimpy. I know.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, he's a pedophile.
Listen, we're talking about the history of animation here. I'm not defending the guy. He's a pedophile. I'm just saying this is the history, okay? During the production of Ren and Stimpy, it was suggested to John Kricfalusi that they should think about outsourcing to South Korea, which is how the South Korean division of Rough Draft Studios was formed. This is actually a very contentious issue. When I'm presenting these excerpts, keep in mind that I'm not presenting a holistic, complete view of John K's opinions on these animation studios, because oftentimes they are very talented. It is not inherently bad. And I'm not going to make that argument. But this is kind of the perspective of the idea of creative control.
I think it's kind of different though. Like, okay, so just like every parts of the world has like their culture, I feel like it applies to animation too, right? I think it applies to your art too. And I don't know how much control the South Korean or wherever they're outsourcing this shit, I don't know how much control they have over the thing, but I mean, that's what it looks like, right? It has to be this. It has to be this. I think it's really this, cause how is it that when everything is like sourced in home, or everything is done in home by people that you know, everything's good, and then all of a sudden it got outsourced, and then you don't want to work on it anymore, right? I feel like there's some truth to this theory. There is some truth to this theory, in my opinion, allegedly.
And what you lose by outsourcing aspects of the production pipeline overseas, which, you know, it might sound weird because Smiling Friends is a show that is worked on remotely all over, like in Australia. So, like, is it really that different? But talking about a very distinct...
But it's like people you know, and then it's like people you don't know. So, oh, you know what it could have been too? So, if it's people that you know, it's probably like, oh, you're helping your friends, and then you're like you created this ecosystem. But then the company who owns the show, they get involved. They're like, ooh, like this kind of too much money. We have this place in Korea that, you know, they can do it for much cheaper, and they can do the work equally as good, if not better. You know, that just becomes a problem. Thank you, Gain 3, for the follow. You know, then that just becomes a problem in its own.
Remotely produced,
because who doesn't want to help like the people around them, you know? Like, I think that's just like a given. That's one of the reasons why you start a business, because you want to help the people around you. And imagine if I came up as like an indie animator, and then all my indie animator friends, I could give them a job, but then all of a sudden I can't give them a job anymore because my company doesn't want to pay these people anymore, right? You don't want to pay these people what they're worth, so you're just gonna outsource their work? I'll be like, no, fuck no, that's not why I started this shit. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna just end it. I'm gonna just end this shit.
Additionally, during the pandemic, internet-centric show versus the long-standing process of having storyboards and then outsourcing the bulk of the animation to Korea. Yes, it's still being worked on internationally, but these are fundamentally different things. So, as John K. kind of writes here, in order to use this system, you have to do layouts in-house. You can't send them overseas. This is the only way you can have any control over having specific customized poses and an individual artistic style, because the overseas animators are trained not to have any style, or not even to know what the story is about that they are animating. They have no personal claim to anything they work on and don't care. Nickelodeon, when it built its own studio on My Foundation, used this system as best as they could understand it. Then other studios copied their My system for a while. It was the creator-driven quote-unquote system. Since then, I think many studios have abandoned layouts in favor of drawing storyboards with clean lines and sending them overseas to be blown up for the animators. That makes the storyboard artist more concerned with cleanup than with telling a story. It's also much harder to do really specific, interesting drawings when drawing postage stamp size. The system has eroded even though there are still many pretend Spumco cartoons on TV, so it's not the fault of the young artists today, but the system makes it almost impossible to do anything truly animated in a creative way because you just can't afford to train people on the budgets that the studios give you, and the most important jobs are done overseas. Now again, I want to re-emphasize, Smiling Friends was a show that was giving jobs to independent artists online, people who hadn't gotten industry work before. They even made Zam Studios to help give more opportunities to artists living in LA. This part of the presentation, we're going to kind of iron out how different the pipeline is and why Smiling Friends was so unique of a production compared to other shows in the industry, and the potential to change things if other productions kind of follow suit. So Michael Cusack says, "We don't follow the pipeline of a Hollywood show. We don't have table reads. We don't have a big writer's room. We're just being ourselves. Shows should come from a vision of a person, duo, or group. There's so many Hollywood shows that's this weird machine." And then Zach says, "A network gets partnered with some comedian or a random artist that they found. The fucked up thing is, everybody involved is talented in their own right, but nothing is being made for a passion. They literally sit down and say, how do we make a hit show? And then here's more."
That's like when you're Drake and you have like all these ghostwriters. It's like the ghostwriters, they're just writing to write, you know? It's not like yeah, they're gonna get money from it and they might get a hit from it, but they're not in it like if they were making the music, you know?
Ruby quote about the show being worked on remotely. The entire show was produced remotely, across time zones. The two have never worked together in a studio, and the only time they stepped into a recording booth together was for the pilot. The 7 new episodes were by and large scripted over Skype video calls. So they kind of talk about in this quote that their budget for the entire first season was the entire budget for 1 episode of Family Guy. And then they point to the MIP frame-by-frame animation, which was...
Oh, this episode was so good. I think this gotta be... Isn't this the first episode, too? I think this is my favorite all-time episode of Smiling Friends.
Done by Harry Partridge.
The entire budget of our whole first season, all 8 episodes, was about the equivalent of 1 episode of Family Guy. Our entire... All the MIP animation of all that frame-by-frame shit, that was done. That was not a huge budgeted thing. That was very little budget with very, like, motivated, very talented people.
Harry Partridge, the great...
It was all Harry Partridge.
Harry Partridge and his team, they did a fantastic job.
It can't be understated how, like, crazy it is that he was able to get this done at the time and the budget he was. We made the pilot remotely anyways. We didn't use any in-place studio. We basically made the pilot kind of how we're making the series. I've actually never worked in a physical studio, so I'm kind of really biased in a weird way in that way.
I remember what was emphasized at the time was that through their use of online animators, they could achieve these very unique, very high quality results with much cheaper of a budget. Again, they were giving work to all these artists, these independent artists, that them getting paid even that amount of money, even though it's a fraction of the cost, I guess, of a Family Guy episode, creates a much more varied, high quality product.
We come from the internet. We come from like, yeah, send us whatever. Like, we love working with people. I do not care about resume for the most part, as long as you get the work done and it's good. And it's, like, I think our porn artists, they weren't like seasoned porn artists. They were very talented artists and very talented animators. I mean, real sincerely. But they didn't work on some other TV show. So, but that's what made it so great. It was very fresh. Where it feels authentic. It feels like a celebration of animation.
Now, again, let's go back to Taipei J, and this is the final comment that we will read from them. My theory is that negotiations behind the scenes between Adult Swim and ZAM broke down over control of animation production. Yeah. Zach and Michael are actual animators themselves, hence why they are deeply involved in all aspects of season 1 and 2, which, they approved every background, every prop, every character design, everything. They made that clear. Hence why they were deeply involved in all aspects of season 1 and 2, like actually drawing art and animation and not just doing storyboards and scripts to ship off to an outsourced studio. And that deep involvement is the, I don't know how to say that,
je ne sais quoi,
of Smiling Friends' appeal and how it stands out from other cartoons. Coincidentally, season 3 was produced more like a cartoon where the storyboards and scripts are sent overseas. Adult Swim might have done that to try and grab more control over the Smiling Friends IP. I sort of think ZAM might have been formed by Zach and Michael as a bid to regain control over Smiling Friends that did not work out. There's a lot of inferring here. Again, we don't necessarily have enough evidence to say that, but the dynamic is very real. The industry at large is not artist-driven. It is not creator-driven. You even hear about people like Craig McCracken, people who have already proven they can make an amazing show. They have a hard time getting stuff picked up. A lot of executives would rather get some fucking bumfuck comedian off SNL and be like, you can make a show, just make some fucking dog shit Family Guy. This is gonna be the next Simpsons bullshit.
For decades, Fox Sunday has been home to TV's most iconic animated dudes. This fall, a new legend is born.
I'm Mark Hoagies.
The real point that, again, John K., a freak, but one of the main things that he was trying to advocate for was creator-driven shows.
But if I were to ask you guys right now, name the most well-known animated shows of all time, especially for adult animation, it's like Beavis and Butthead, South Park, Family Guy, The Simpsons. Every single one of these long-lasting shows, if you can go on and name other ones too, SpongeBob, Rocko's Modern Life, all these shows that have stood the test of time, every single one of them have been Animator and artist driven.
They want to draw whatever they want, and the internet lets people do that with so much more creative freedom. Smiling Friends was an opportunity to take all of these different things unique to internet animation and finally bring them to TV and show that people want to watch this. It's kind of catching up with that. They were able to change up and subvert the typical industry pipeline by giving those people work, having a much more visually interesting output, being able to create television quality animation at the fraction of the cost of other TV shows, and do it all while maintaining creative control. These are all things that make Smiling Friends the show it is. And again, season 3 was not bad, but you can kind of get the sense that maybe things were changing behind the scenes and they saw the writing on the wall. I honestly don't think these are mutually exclusive. Again, I could fully believe their announcement was completely genuine, and this might even be just a stupid conspiracy. From the announcement, it seems that they left on good terms, like they were always open to come back and they could pick up the show whenever they wanted. Like, you can't replace really Zach or Michael as the voices, first of all. You could, but you couldn't. There would be a huge uproar. They have their own fan bases. They already had an established history. And Adult Swim is definitely more cognizant of that than other networks. At the same time, maybe that's a bad faith interpretation. Maybe they would have played ball anyways. But I do think that is a possible factor, in the same way that I personally think the Paramount stuff was probably a coincidence, but again, maybe the writing was on the wall. Maybe they were just like, okay, well, Paramount's gonna buy this. Are we going to get fucked? Are we gonna get trapped in a show that has to keep going forever? But even if all of this is not true, I do think it is a very interesting observation.
Damn, yeah, that's crazy too, bro. I forgot. Paramount owns everything now. Or not, they don't own it, but they show everything on Paramount now. The UFC is on Paramount. Well, I don't know, but I just assume everything's on Paramount now. That can't be good, bro. That cannot be good. And then seeing who owns Paramount either.
Observation about the differences between seasons, and it's something worth talking about. Things are not looking good in the animation industry and the entertainment industry as a whole. More and more people are kind of operating outside of that system. This is kind of proving that the end point for an animated show or something like that doesn't have to be trying to get on a network even. If you do operate within the network, if TV is to adapt to this, they would serve to gain a lot by studying and learning from how these internet productions are.
Bro, they don't give a fuck. This is what happens every single time, bro. With everything monetized, someone wants to, I forget the word. Someone gets greedy. Almost every single time the company, right? Because they own you and they feel like they can do whatever they want with your shit. It's not the person who made it who owns it. It's they think they own you, bro, and they always want more money. They get greedy every single time, bro. Every single time. I'm not surprised. The guys who made the show, kudos to you. You did not. Adult Swim or who I guess Paramount owns Adult Swim now or some shit. Kudos to you. You do not deserve any of that shit. Go fully independent. The future is fully independent, bro. The only bad thing about the future that worries me is that the platforms, they're also owned by like these type of people. So what has to be done in the future? Everyone, see, this is the part that sucks. Or someone has to make a platform. Rumble is a good example. But then it's like, then Rumble is going to be owned by someone in the future. Hopefully not. But I think people should post on Rumble more, right? Since it's an actual like free speech platform. I think people should upload like their art on Rumble. Or make your own website. Make your own website. If your stuff is truly good, then it's going to succeed off of its own website. But Rumble's not a bad option either. Rumble just has to grow as a platform. People have to, actually want to go on there. But, I don't know, that might be kind of hard. Considering it's mostly all like right-leaning like politics. But hopefully that changes in the future. I think it's a good platform, just it's not in the best place right now.
being made. I don't know. That's all completely irrelevant, you know? And I'm going to stop yapping. Anyways, thank you for listening. This is a huge ramble. How long have I been recording? Fuck, it's an hour. I have to edit an hour.
Oh, damn. What a shame. W video by Bernie Vids here. Let's see what kind of videos Bernie Vids be making. Maybe he has bangers. Ooh, bizarre history of Satanism. Wow, Bernie, you. The 9 lives of Fritz the cat. What?